There are moments in history when an ancient text resurfaces, not as a memory, not as a myth, but as a warning, waiting to be understood by the right generation. And tonight, that text belongs to a man whose words have outlived kingdoms, empires, and entire belief systems. A man whose visions traveled through the centuries like shadows, searching for the era for which they were intended. Nostradamus. But what if I told you that some of his most disturbing verses, the ones that many scholars refuse to touch, the ones that no conventional expert dares to address, point directly to the year 2026? What if the prophecies that people have been debating for decades are no longer vague poetry, but a mirror reflecting what we are about to face? Before we dive into what may be the most controversial interpretation of Nostradamus ever discussed on this channel, pause for a moment. Enjoy this video now, before you become completely absorbed in the maze we are about to enter. Share it with someone who feels something is changing in the world. And if you are new to Prophecies Revealed, subscribe and consider becoming a member, because what you are about to hear is the kind of material that most channels avoid altogether. Michel de Nostradamus, known as Nostradamus, was a 16th-century French physician and astrologer who wrote Les Prophéties in 1555, a collection of 942 poetic quatrains that purportedly predict future events. His track record is undeniable. He predicted the Great Fire of London in 1666. The rise of Napoleon and Hitler. The assassination of JFK. The September 11th attacks. And even the COVID-19 pandemic. Scholars estimate that approximately 70% of his predictions have come true. And now, his writings about 2026 are becoming impossible to ignore. Because what he saw 500 years ago is happening now. Now. Take a breath. Because the last prophecy on this list may be the one that disturbs you the most, and you won't realize it until we get to the end. Let's begin. Prophecy 1, the falling king and the seed of darkness born in his shadow. One of Nostradamus' most misunderstood verses talks about the light of Mars and the number 7. For years, people interpreted this to mean a 7-month war, or a literal celestial omen. But when you strip away the poetic language, when you read it the way Nostradamus intended, shrouded in symbolism, a very different picture emerges. He wasn't describing months. He wasn't describing astrology. He was describing a kingdom. A throne. A death. And a gathering of the world's most powerful figures. According to this reading, an important monarch, a literal king or sovereign, is destined to die in 2026. And while the world watches the ceremonies, the rituals, the funeral, and the ascension of the successor, something else will happen behind the scenes. A convergence. A gathering of powers. A union that serves not the light, but the shadows. Nostradamus was not referring to evil individuals. He was referring to something much deeper, a seed. A concentrated essence of malice. An influence that forms when certain powers come together in the same place and time. This event, whether political, spiritual, or something much older than both, will mark the beginning of a force spreading across the world. And here is where the prophecy splits into two disturbing possibilities. It could describe a geopolitical alliance formed quietly at the end of a reign. An alliance that will destabilize the world for years to come. Or it could refer to a conception. A birth. A child whose very existence will carry pure, dark potential long before taking its first breath. Many scholars refuse to touch this interpretation. But Nostradamus suggests that in 2026, something or someone will enter the world under the shadow of a king. And the ripple effect will be global. Prophecy 2, the Great Ship and the Green Adversary. Another enigmatic quatrain speaks of a great ship drying up and a green adversary growing bright with fear. Traditionally, people have connected this to naval warfare and rising tensions between world powers. Some aligned with green ideologies, others deeply opposed. It's not a far-fetched guess. But Nostradamus rarely spoke in literal terms. This prophecy points to a global maritime event, something big enough that the oceans become symbols of terror. In 2026, this could manifest in several ways. The catastrophic sinking of a great ship. An event that becomes the catalyst for global conflict. Or perhaps a previously hidden maritime weapon revealed to the world, changing the balance of power overnight. Or perhaps, worst-case scenario. A nation under extreme political pressure making a reckless naval move, one that triggers an uncontrollable chain reaction. Whatever form it takes, Nostradamus is clear on one thing. A large ship will fall, and its fall will reshape the struggle for dominance over the seas. And here is the truth that history has taught us repeatedly: when the oceans move, empires tremble. Prophecy 3, the drought, the earthquake, and the unexpected storm. The dry land, the unexpected storm, the great floods when they appear. At first glance, it seems obvious. Climate imbalances, extreme weather, catastrophic rainfall. But Nostradamus uses the phrase, when they appear, in a way that suggests surprise, emergency, almost as if something arrives rather than forms. 2026, according to this interpretation, will be marked by heat so intense that regions turn into deserts, followed by rains so violent and sudden that they flood entire landscapes. But this is where the prophecy takes a darker turn. These rains may not be natural. Some researchers believe that Nostradamus may be referring to experiments, technologies capable of manipulating or triggering atmospheric changes. Something tested in a desert. Something that reshapes the sky. Others go even further. They connect this quatrain to centuries of observations and testimonies describing huge clouds forming, followed by the appearance of a ship, a presence, an object not of this world. Powerful institutions of faith, including the Church, which historically maintained its own circle of visionaries and observers, have long documented visions of colossal rain clouds hiding something within them. Something watching. Something moving. Something capable of transforming the weather at will. Whether scientific or extraterrestrial, prophecy points to rain that arrives, not rain that forms. 2026 is the year the heavens open. Now. Take a deep breath. Because the next 4 prophecies will show you something that most people haven't realized yet. But before we continue, if you're finding this deep dive valuable, hit that like button. Share this with someone who feels like the world is changing. And subscribe if you haven't already, because we're only scratching the surface of what's to come. Prophecy 4, the Third Antichrist. This is the prophecy no one wants to discuss. But Nostradamus was crystal clear about it. He wrote about 3 antichrists who would bring devastation to the world. Many scholars believe Napoleon was the first. Hitler was the second. And now, in 2026, the third is about to reveal himself. In his quatrain Century 8, verse 77, Nostradamus wrote, "The third will do worse harm than the first and the second, his great empire extending from the east to the setting sun." This passage has puzzled scholars for centuries. The phrase, "from the east to the setting sun," suggests a leader rising from Asia with global ambitions. The timing? Multiple Nostradamus researchers, including John Hogue and Dolores Cannon, point to 2026 as the year this figure emerges on the world stage. And here's what's chilling: in 2026, we are seeing an unprecedented military buildup in Eastern nations. China's military spending increased by 7.2% this year. North Korea is accelerating its nuclear program. Russia and China just conducted their largest joint military exercise in history. These are not coincidences, they are the pieces falling into place. If Nostradamus is right, 2026 will not be just another year. It will be the year that changes the geopolitical landscape forever. And most people have no idea what is coming. Prophecy 5, The Darkness of the East and the Barbarian Tremor. From the east, it will darken toward the meridian. Barbarian tremor. To many, this sounds like an eclipse, a natural darkening of the sky. But Nostradamus rarely spoke of simple astronomy. His visions were symbolic, layered, obscure. The phrase, "it will darken," is not about the sun losing light. It is about interference. Something comes from the east, a force, a technology, an object, that moves across the world, toward the meridian, toward the symbolic heart of the earth. And as it moves, it casts a shadow. Not physical darkness, but an interruption, a distortion of signals, communication, order. To ancient eyes, it would be as if the sky itself were being devoured. To modern eyes, it might look like a blackout, a swarm, a cloud of machines. And here is the disturbing interpretation: Nostradamus may not be talking about aliens, although many argue that he was. But he may have seen our own creations. Thousands of autonomous drones, hacked, out of control, or defective. A swarm moving from the east, covering the sky like locusts. A technological cloud so dense that it darkens the day. Imagine a city in the east, perhaps in Asia, watching as the sky fills with thousands of mechanical shapes, buzzing, falling, or attacking without control. Panic spreads. Fear erupts. Nostradamus calls this a barbaric tremor, not because the event is barbaric, but because the reaction will be angry, animalistic, primal. A world that thought it commanded technology suddenly realizes that technology can rebel. And in 2026, something born in the East may unleash a darkness that the world is not ready to face. Prophecy 6, The Collapse of the False and Sacred House. False and Sacred House. Infidels cry for fire. For generations, people assumed Nostradamus was talking about temples, churches, or holy places. But look closely. He speaks of a false and sacred house. Something that people worship that is not divine. In our time, what do people worship? What do they blindly trust? Where do they place their faith, their security, their hope? Money. The false and sacred house is the financial world. Banks, markets, digital currencies, temples of investment disguised as gods of certainty. Nostradamus states that in 2026, one of these houses will collapse. A bank. A large financial institution. A cryptocurrency empire that millions believe to be indestructible. Or a new power intervening so aggressively in the markets that global panic ensues. The fire is symbolic. Not of flames, but of losses. Values burning. Lives burning. The weeping of the unfaithful refers to those who placed all their faith in economic illusion, treating wealth as the supreme religion. And Nostradamus reminds us, as history has done countless times, extraordinary gains never last. And those who rise fastest usually fall hardest. 2026 will test this truth again. Prophecy 7. He who comes with angels. The long sail appears, 14 sheep surround it, evil without weapons cannot touch it. This is the prophecy that many fear and yet many secretly hope for. And it is the prophecy I warned you about at the beginning. The one that may disturb you in ways you never imagined. Nostradamus speaks of an envoy. Not a king. Not a warrior. Not a saint dressed in robes. But a human. An ordinary person. Unaware of their destiny. In 2026, as darkness spreads through politics, technology, science, and the hearts of men, someone will rise whose purpose is to bring clarity where confusion reigns, and light where fear has become the norm. This individual will carry a presence that cannot be corrupted. A voice that resonates with something older than civilization itself. A guide who feels divinely protected. Nostradamus mentions 14 angels, often interpreted as 7 angels. Each representing a virtue that protects and strengthens the chosen one. Their presence means that evil, in any possible form, cannot touch this person directly. But the role comes with weight. A prophet, and Nostradamus implies this word, lives in tension between the divine and the human. They speak truths that no one wants to hear. They warn of dangers that others refuse to acknowledge. They sacrifice comfort, relationships, and security for a message that can save lives, but often costs everything. And here's the most disturbing part. Nostradamus suggests that the chosen one is already alive today. Already searching. Already sensing something stirring around them. It could be someone watching this video. Someone who feels out of place in the world because they were never meant to fit in. Destiny rarely announces itself. It whispers. And only those destined to hear pay attention. If you feel something inside you reacting to these words, a chill, a tension, an awakening, then maybe, just maybe, the prophecy was pointing to you all along. So remember, Nostradamus saw 7 important events for 2026, the fall of a king, the collapse of a maritime empire, and the rise of the one who brings light. If you found this information valuable, hit that like button. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Because in my next video, I'll reveal Baba Vanga's last prediction, something she refused to tell anyone until her dying days. And what she said about November 2026 will keep you up at night. Stay informed. Stay prepared. See you next time.